Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Toaster Ninja 97. Thanks for the suggestion, Toaster Ninja. You asked, who started the tradition of lighting candles for remembrance? If you've ever lit a candle in memory of someone, or seen rows of flickering flames at a vigil, you might have wondered, where did this tradition actually come from? It feels ancient, sacred, and somehow always makes the moment more meaningful. Way more than, say, flipping on your kitchen light. So today, we're tracing the story of how candles became symbols of remembrance, from ancient fire rituals to modern memorials. Let's dive in right here on Explaining Everything. Long before candles were even a thing, fire was the way humans connected with something bigger than themselves. Ancient civilizations saw fire as a divine force, sometimes a messenger to the gods, sometimes a warning that you left dinner on the stove too long. The Egyptians, for example, believed flames could guide souls to the afterlife. Meanwhile, in ancient Greece, they kept eternal flames burning as a tribute to gods and heroes. These were kind of like today's eternal flame memorials, except with fewer tourists taking selfies in front of them. Fire wasn't just about light and heat, it was spiritual. And if you've ever tried to sit through a power outage without your phone, you know that staring at a candle flame feels strangely hypnotic. Ancient people noticed that too. Candles showed up around 3000 BCE, thanks to some genius who looked at an open flame and thought, this needs to be portable. Early candles were made of tallow, which is just a fancy way of saying animal fat. So yes, they were basically tiny torches made of beef-scented wax. Religious traditions quickly adopted candles because nothing says holy and mystical like dim, flickering light. In Judaism, Sabbath candles became a weekly tradition, while in Christianity, candles were used to symbolize divine presence. Plus, they helped medieval churches feel slightly less terrifying at night. By the Middle Ages, lighting a candle for someone who had passed away became an official thing. The idea was that the flame represented the soul's journey, kind of like a spiritual GPS, but with a much better ambiance. As time went on, candles became one of the go-to ways to honor the dead. In Jewish culture, the yahrzeit candle is lit every year on the anniversary of a loved one's passing. In Catholic tradition, votive candles are placed in churches as prayers for the departed. The idea spread beyond religion too. If you've ever been to a candlelight vigil, you've seen how powerful this simple act can be. Whether it's remembering a loved one, honoring a historical tragedy, or just reflecting on something important, candlelight has a way of making everything feel deeply significant. It's also way more visually dramatic than holding up a flashlight app. Now, the big question: who first decided to light a candle in remembrance? Unlike some inventions, looking at you, light bulb, which we can definitively credit to Edison, the tradition of remembrance candles doesn't have a single inventor. There's no ancient scroll saying Greg the Greek lit the first memorial candle on March 12th, 247 BCE. Instead, This practice evolved across different cultures. It wasn't a single light bulb moment, pun fully intended, but rather humanity collectively realizing that fire, light, and memory belong together. Think of it like the invention of music. No one person created it, but every civilization found a way to make it meaningful. Today, the tradition of lighting candles for remembrance is stronger than ever. From religious services to online virtual candle lighting, yes, that's a thing, we've found endless ways to keep this ritual alive. Even outside of memorials, candles remain a huge part of how we mark time and emotions. Birthday candles celebrate another year of life. Candlelit dinners create romance, or at least hide questionable cooking. And let's not forget that scented candle addiction many of us have. Nothing says honoring memories like a vanilla bean and lavender-scented tribute. So, who started the tradition of lighting candles for remembrance? Humanity itself. From ancient fire rituals to today's digital tributes, we've always been drawn to the soft glow of a flickering flame. It's a way to remember, to honor, and to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves. So, next time you light a candle, whether it's at a vigil, in a church, or just because your power went out, remember that you're participating in one of the oldest traditions in human history. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe even light a candle in my honor for all the history we uncovered today. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.